Okay, so this is going to be a powerful turning point for us. One that you'll probably not feel as comfortable as you would like. The thing is, the 14th of March, when we've got this full moon in Virgo, which by the way is this eclipse, this lunar eclipse, is going to bring us moments of significant clarity and also the recognition of the things that we need to release within our lives that we know have not been good for us. The interesting thing about this moment of clarity is that it's not something like, oh, I have this insight and this clarity and everything feels at peace for me. It's more like, oh, I've realized that these are the patterns that have been holding me back and I need to confront them and release them in order for me to be able to experience a deeper connection with emotional psychological integration, right? And so these moments of clarity that will ultimately will move us towards patterns that we need to release are going to change the routines within your life. They are going to disrupt the things that you've been emotionally attached to that you know haven't been good for you. Now, it depends on how you respond to that. Is this good or is this bad? The full moon itself, as I've explained, is not just a normal full moon. This is not just like, oh, it's a full moon and we can just bypass it. This is actually, in my eyes, an incredibly fated experience. And the reason why I say that is because the significance of what this full moon brings is the opportunity to change so much of the internal conditioning that we as a civilization, as a society have adopted, that Pluto in Aquarius wants to completely obliterate and bring into a new reality, bring you into a new reality, one that is more of an empowered version of yourself. But in order for us to do that, we need to be able to go through this purging process. So if we take a look at the key theme for this lunar eclipse, what we see here is that eclipses represent, or lunar eclipse particularly, represents the revelation, okay, things coming to the surface. So anything that's been suppressed, anything that's been hidden, any parts of our consciousness that are still gestating and need to be birthed into our reality as a way to become conscious or bring light to it. That's what the eclipses do, the lunar eclipses particularly. When we look at the Virgo energy, this is about self-improvement. This is about a process of looking at the crises and addressing the things that are not working, and then through a process of analysis, figure out ways to address what is a crisis or what we're avoiding and what is not working for us, and work through that, right? To process through that so that you can be released of the emotional tension that often comes with Virgo experiences. So in the context of this lunar eclipse with this in the sign of Virgo, what we're seeing is a period of time, 5.5 to 6 months, of energy coming to the surface for us where we're looking at patterns within ourselves, we're looking at the order in our lives, we're looking at what we can control and what we cannot control, and we're looking at the deeper, more emotional difficulties that we have in our lives regarding our situation, regarding our challenges, regarding the things, our dreams, our aspirations. And it's coming to the surface so that we can see what's holding us back, what's stuck, what's not healthy. And by allowing these moments of clarity to bring the insights necessary for the releasing, we're actually experiencing this not as a crisis lunar eclipse, but more of an actual reconstruction of your life in a way that's actually pushing you to get rid of what's holding you back and to give you the freedom and the space for liberation, right? That's the Pluto in Aquarius. Ultimately, it's the Pluto in Aquarius signature that's defining everything. And it's about the freedom, the breaking away, and the acceleration into a version of yourself that is free of these patterns. So what are the types of planetary activations at the moment that are facilitating this lunar eclipse's energy and the potential for transformation within our lives? So this lunar eclipse has got some pretty powerful planetary alignments woven into it. We've got the Venus retrograde cycle, We've got Mars now direct, moving and squaring against Chiron in Aries, so we've got Chiron there as well. We've got Saturn conjunct the Sun, which, by the way, tells us a lot about the importance of what type of emotional growth we're going through with this lunar eclipse. And then not to mention, we've also got Mercury turning retrograde tomorrow on the 15th of March. You can see why there's so much emphasis that I'm putting on with this lunar eclipse around it being a powerful turning point, but also the significance of this being such an incredibly fated system that is going to move through us and change a lot and has the potential to transform your life in a big way if you're ready to be open to what needs to be released. So if we take a look at the Venus retrograde itself, we know that this Venus retrograde is going to be happening with both eclipses. So both eclipses are going to have this Venus retrograde pattern in it. And we know that Venus retrograde has to do with a reassessment and reevaluation of our internal relationship to ourselves. We're focusing on the center of our own being. The attention is not focused on who are they, it's who am I. So a reordering of our values and our priorities and a realignment with what has emotionally developed in our lives right now. Remember, we're constantly growing and evolving, so of course, Venus at some point needs to say, hey, here's how you've changed, and you need that software update. Now, the Venus retrograde in the solar eclipse doesn't come just with fun giggles. There's some disruption and there's challenges, and I wrote them down and I want to share them with you. So the challenge with this Venus retrograde is feeling stuck in unresolved relationship patterns where the values have changed for you and you're uncertain about how to move forward within yourself and renegotiate the new value systems that are not only becoming made more conscious within yourself, but probably the other person too. The discomfort is recognizing that things have become outdated and you need to confront what's become outdated and move on. And that means maybe releasing certain emotional attachments to things that you've been bound by, the routines, the orders, and how maybe relationship patterns have structured within your life. So there is change on that front. If we take a look at the significance of the Chiron in Aries and the Mars in Cancer there as well, which, by the way, I also wrote some challenges and to understand the lessons here for us, is that we know that Mars has moved direct. And for the most part, most of you have probably felt a very strong sense of agency around, okay, this is emotionally where I am right now. But the challenge to the square, to Chiron and to Venus, works like this. The challenge to Chiron is, as you step into this, or the desire to want to action this new emotional clarity that you have, this desire to emotionally align with something that feels authentic for you, that might mean coming into a new set of experiences. It might mean challenging your old boundaries and realizing that what was always comfortable for you in your old version of yourself, now you can't rely on or go back to because that has been outdated. That is outdated. You've outgrown this emotional skin that you've had. So it's the challenge of how do you come into new experiences and embrace it while recognizing the uncertainty that comes along with a new environment, a new situation, a new circumstance. And of course, the square to Venus just amplifies the dynamic tension between this newly emotionally developed sense of self, Mars retrograde moving direct in Cancer, and Venus going, hey, your internal relationship to yourself and the patterns and the ways that you have formed relationships in the past are outdated. And so now there's that intersection between stepping into the new, but recognizing that your value system needs to now come into alignment with that, right? And so that's the assessment of your Venus retrograde. Now, what I wrote over here for us around our Mars is realizing that old relationship and self patterns, right? Self-worth patterns no longer serve you, right? That's the challenge, as I've described. And the discomfort is the recognition that you need to take a moment to not just act irrationally and just move through it. It's the challenges, or the discomfort is to actually recognize what's showing up and sit with it, because it's a Venus retrograde, and assess how your actions and desires are bringing you into one space, but your value system needs to be updated. It's the discomfort of recognizing these two, and then you having to bring and update your system that aligns with your emotional reality. Okay? And also to feel comfortable and alive and ready to take on a new environment, a new experience, or a new situation, even if it feels uncertain. You don't have that confidence to be able to jump into it and to step into that new world. Now, what's interesting about the Mercury retrograde over here is that it turns retrograde on the 15th of March, and it turns direct on the 7th of April. And again, for both eclipses, but for this eclipse, it's very clear. Mercury retrograde saying, hey, all of us, we have mental patterns that we still have attached to old value systems, Venus retrograde, that are conditioning the way that you see your life, act on your life, and the way that you believe in your self-worth and what is possible for you. So Mercury retrograde is going into the unconscious part, and it's saying, hey, here's the patterns, here's the messaging, here's the pre-existing structures that you've had in your life that need to be reviewed and released in order for you to move forward. And it's also providing us with the space to have a new, fresh, open perspective to embrace the new version of yourself that will eventually become more and more consciously aware of as we move through March and April and through this eclipse pattern. And that's really where the potential for transformation exists for us. Now, it's moving back from Aries into the sign of Pisces. So, of course, for the most part, we're really aware with this Mercury retrograde of where I want to take up space and what these new things are, to a deeply reflective Pisces energy that says, here's the things that I'm excited to see release. So Mercury in Aries, hey, this is the new adventure, but oh, we're not ready yet. We still need to see what's holding us back. Let's go back into Pisces and just clean out and release and allow for the possibility for new open spaces to come into your mind when it goes direct, and you begin pursuing the things that actually feel exciting to you. Because when Mercury goes direct, it will actually have Mars trining Venus at the time, right? Mars trining Venus, Mercury also trining Mars as well. So there's lots of nice positive energy there in Pisces. Okay. Now, remember, Mercury retrograde always brings a little bit of disturbance in regards to communication. So the challenge with Mercury retrograde here is misunderstanding things, missing some information, some details. So just be mindful of that. And it's also a great opportunity to recognize that some of the discomfort is a time for questioning rather than rushing into things. Because while it's in Aries at the moment, it's like, hey, these are new possibilities, these are new opportunities. But because the retrograde's here, it's more like, oh, wow, I'm excited for that. Right? It's like, I'm seeing why I'm excited for that. Oh, here's how I can align my values with my desires so that I can be more integrated with my value system and my action system, Mars Venus, right? Okay. Now, I said to you that, and I leave the best for last, of course, Saturn's very patient, but the Sun conjunct Saturn is a significant one in the sense that it's like, hey, this is actually pretty serious. And the Sun coming along and saying, if we recognize the significance of the emotional growth and the maturation that comes with confronting these limitations within ourselves, Sun-Saturn conjunction, we have this amazing opportunity to emotionally mature and release, so emotionally mature into a stronger version of ourselves that feels very aligned and grounded, Saturn, but also has the opportunity to let go of and dissolve a reality, Saturn, that no longer represents the truth for you. So it's powerful in the sense that it actually telling us, hey, there's a moment for deep actualization, and there's also a moment for release of the old self. And what comes out of this is a stronger version, emotionally and physically, and hopefully also in your life as well, a new structure. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the practical things that I think you can utilize as part of this eclipse energy. So here are 4 ways that you could interact with this lunar eclipse that will help you become more conscious and connected to the potential that this energy is bringing us. And of course, utilize this as a guiding principle for the next 5.5 to 6 months. So let's start off with number 1. The need to let go for perfection, right? The challenge here with this lunar eclipse is feeling like you need to have all the answers right now. Okay, there's that kind of sense of like, I need to know everything, I need to understand what I need to do with my life, etc. And part of this energy is recognizing that there is uncertainty. Part of this energy is accepting the imperfections and the uncertainty of how things are progressing within your life, and seeing that this is a part of growth. This is a part of how things are, especially when it comes to the Virgo-Pisces axis. But we need to know the answers right now. It's going to cause turbulence within your mental sphere, and it's not going to be good. So allow this process to unfold for you in a natural and organic way. The second thing that I could recommend as a way to connect with this energy is to pay attention to what feels stagnant right now. Right? The challenge here is feeling trapped in old habits, routines, or relationships that no longer serve us. And we want to be able to see what is stagnant in these areas. So this lunar eclipse, in a sense, brings us a lesson of a wake-up call to release the things that no longer align with your life, no longer align with your emotional desires. This is where the transformation will take place for us as well. What is stagnant needs to be released. So another guiding principle that would help us during this lunar eclipse is let emotions surface without judgment. This is a big one, right? The challenge here is to suppress or overanalyze the emotions. And it's because we need to give reason to things. We need to give a sense of, again, ask like, I need the answers. But that's not how Virgo energy works, and it's not how Pisces energy works as well. So the challenge here for us is to let the emotions surface without judgment, because if we're not suppressing and we're not overanalyzing the emotions, we're just letting it flow through with us, we're allowing ourselves to feel without needing immediate solutions. This is about becoming consciously aware of what we are carrying within ourselves and seeing if they're stagnant or not, and then just accepting them, recognizing it, and then allowing ourselves to forgive for some of the things that we might have within ourselves, the patterns that we feel are broken. We need to fix it. It's like trying to understand it better. So dropping into a deeper state of meditation, and I don't mean meditation, I mean just an awareness of what is coming up for us without judgment. And the fourth and final alignment piece that I think would be useful for us is to take a look at how to prepare for the solar eclipse energy that's arriving on the 29th of this month, right, March, which is this energy is going to bring us a lot of clarity on what types of choices and actions and directions we want to go. So just as this lunar eclipse brings us a lot of things that need to be released, the solar eclipse is wanting to bring us a lot of attention to the things that we're ready to actually take action on. It's pretty exciting. The challenge here, of course, is because it's in Aries, it's, well, the uncertainty of the future. If I take this leap of faith, what's going to happen to this part of my life? Okay. The lesson for us to see with this upcoming solar eclipse energy is to trust that as we're clearing out the old experiences or old patterns within our lives, we're also creating the space for new opportunities to emerge. And if we can allow ourselves to recognize that we want these new opportunities and that there is uncertainty of how the things are going to play out for us, it doesn't mean we shouldn't go for them. And that is an powerful place to be, because I know that each of us individually, you know that there is something new that you want to take on board, but you might not necessarily have the full picture, right? That's the lunar eclipse at the moment. So this eclipse is not going to be an easy one, but it's a necessary one. The discomfort that will be revealed through this eclipse is supposed to help you become aware of what needs to be realigned. It's helping you become conscious of what needs to be released. And it's ultimately leading you to a place where you can become aware of what reordering and reconstruction in your life is meant to take place, so that you can experience yourself in a more empowered and more liberated and free way. This is the moment of transformation for us. What's powerful about it is that this is not just, as I said, a lunar eclipse. It's one that is a significant turning point for us all as a collective. And again, Saturn conjunct the Sun was a clear indication of the potential that lies with this lunar eclipse. So I'd love to hear what types of patterns and challenges you're actually going to go through this eclipse. What have you recognized about yourself that you're ready to release with this eclipse? And of course, we've already had the eclipse, so I'm sure most of us are probably aware of that right now. Let me know in the comment section, guys. I like to read it and get an objective perspective, not only from other people, but also for what will be taking place within my own life. So a couple of announcements that I want to quickly make. Firstly, we'll be doing a video on the houses, the solar eclipse through the houses, and of course the up and coming solar eclipse energy as well, the lunar eclipse and solar eclipse through the houses and the solar eclipse energy. And so stay on the lookout for those videos. Also, which I forgot to mention, by the way, is that the Learn Your Chart immersion is actually, the registration's open. It's an incredibly cool way to be able to understand the entirety of your astrology chart and to come into a deep contemplation and process of and learning about yourself in a way that's uniquely attuned to your astrology chart. So that's the thing that I like about it the most. And it's a deep dive. And with all the types of energies that we're experiencing at the moment, it's a great opportunity, I think at least, to recognize, to help you become better at recognizing the things that are important for you and the things that are empowering for you, and to release the things that are not. So check that out in the description below. I'll leave the link so you can check out more about the Learn Your Chart. It's now open for registration, okay? And finally, if you want to sign up for our newsletter and receive our written content, as well as any other things that we are sharing regarding our astrology, I'll leave the link in the description to sign up for that as well. And yeah, I'll leave on the screen right now an ability to watch the Venus retrograde video, just to give you a bit of an update on that. And until the next one, have an amazing day, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.